Matt, the next question I have for you is, I know you read this book. In fact, I think you read this book before I read this book.
I'm actually a little bit bitter because I recommended it to Dave Humes 6 months before you did, and he didn't listen to me. So now I know if I want to get Dave to read something, I have to go through you.
Exactly. That's very funny. So, I mean, you must have been fascinated by this whole concept of these cells coming into our community, and have you addressed that in terms of policing our community in a different way, or how do you address that in our community in terms of how to go after these little cells that have popped up all around our communities?
We rely a lot on, we prosecute the cases in large part when they're brought to us by law enforcement, and we have a great relationship both with the state and local law enforcement, and increasingly over the last couple of years, the FBI and DEA have been much more active in Delaware at the street level, which has been a huge help to us because they have expertise and equipment that some of our local agencies do not have, particularly in terms of our ability to put together, what we would call enterprise cases, where, previously we might have only been able to arrest or prosecute people who were actually on the front lines doing the sales. And what the FBI and DEA have really brought up for the last couple of years, as you've probably seen in the paper increasingly over the last 12 or 24 months, is a lot more cases involving people, quote unquote, higher up the food chain. And we've actually been able to, and they're hard cases to bring, and they involve wiretaps and electronic surveillance, and often getting people to testify against folks who were formerly their employers. So they're very complicated cases that take a long time to put together, and it's really been helpful to have the federal government's help in that sense. We rely on them a lot in terms of describing to us what the distribution network looks like in Delaware, and we're a little different just because of our size, B, because of our proximity to Philadelphia and Baltimore, which is where it's believed that a lot of the traffic comes from, and also with respect to Wilmington specifically, on and off 95 in Wilmington is 5 minutes, so it makes Wilmington particularly vulnerable to traffic coming in from those two cities. So I think to the extent that we understand the model, it's probably a little bit different than some of the ones that Sam talks about in his book. But I think we're getting more successful dealing with it. But as he said, if we're not, we have to deal with the supply side. It's critical that we do. But unless we're effectively dealing with the demand side, for every ring that we break up, another one's going to take its place. In fact, I've been on this job 20 months, not that I'm counting, and we have finally we've come full cycle where one of the rings that we pretty much arrested everyone in a particular neighborhood in Newark. We have now started to arrest the next group of people that came in and filled in the market. So if we're not dealing with the demand side, we're not going to be solving the problem. And although you didn't ask me this, I just wanted to echo what you were saying about the atTAcK addiction folks, and some of the things that we have been able to do in the state literally wouldn't have happened if they weren't as active as they are, and really as focused, and had they not developed the incredible expertise that they have in certain areas, like the use of naloxone, and folks like Secretary Landgraf have been critical in terms of operationalizing some of this, but they brought some of these things to our state, and they speak not only with ultimate moral authority, but also just with a degree of insight and intelligence that you just can't match what they bring to the table. And I am constantly in awe of the fact that they have done all that after undergoing what they have gone through as families, and having to retell the story over and over and over again. I just am in awe of what they do, and incredibly thankful for it.
Thank you, Matt. When you lose a child, you have to figure out, why did that happen to you, and what can I do to make meaning from their life? And this is what we decided to do. We work hard at it, and we have a whole lot of people that go with us. And Dave Humes said, we each want to save one life, and now we all want to save all of them. And it's a large mountain to climb, and thank you Matt, for all your support, and also Rita and the governor. It's been very rewarding to work with all of them and them to be supportive of us so that we can work together as a community to get this problem taken care of.
I think we're off and running with our start to transform our community. So Matt, one more question for you, because I just wanted to stay focused on the law enforcement for a minute, but the tobacco industry has had to invest a lot in non-smoking, programs and all sorts of initiatives. There's been a lot of tobacco money. Sam brought up the point of where's the pharmaceutical industry in all this? Why, what do you think the chances are that we're going to be able to make the pharmaceutical companies partially responsible for this and have them, help to be a part of our solution? And how would we approach that as an advocacy group? I mean, maybe that's a mission that atTAcK Addiction and we can take on as a community to try to make happen. Any suggestions on that or ideas?
Well, one thing that we're interested in is figuring out how to have them pay for it so that we don't end up paying for it anyway. Because one of the things that we have found sometimes is that when people who manufacture drugs help to pay for something, then the prices of the drugs that they sell that we end up paying to our insurance companies offsets that. So, but I think it's also indisputable what the picture that Sam laid out is that's what happened. And there is a level of responsibility there. I know, and Sam's probably more up to date than I am on this. There's only one state that I know of, which is Kentucky, actually, that successfully over a period of I think 8 or 10 years was able to get the industry to actually have to put significant dollars into the treatment side, and we're looking at, and they started that 8 years ago, so we're looking at what they did and trying to figure out, is it feasible for something like that to be done in other states? So that is part of it. What we also really need their help with is the process of trying to unwind the message that they were sending out for all those years that, again, Sam outlined so well in his book. And we are going through that process through state regulations. And I saw Dave Mangler here in the front earlier. I mean, Dave and with advocacy from Dr. Rattay and from Rita Landgraf, they have put us on the verge of having regulations regarding the prescription of opiates in the state that will probably be, if not the strictest in the country, in the top 2 or 3 in the country in terms of requiring doctors to have consultation with patients before they prescribe opiates following surgeries, that there be oversight in terms of urine testing and diversion of drugs, and those are, we actually could use the industry's help in terms of reinforcing that message, because these new regulations are going to go out, and that's important, but we could also use the industry's help financially, yes, but also just in terms of reinforcing the need to be more responsible about the initial prescription of these drugs, having really created the problem to such an extent in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Jan, what do you see as the most effective treatment for opiate addiction? Because clearly it's a big challenge financially for families. A lot of families can't afford treatment. And then, as you said, I mean, as Sam said, it's kind of a roulette game when you get out. I mean, some people get it, some people don't. Some people relapse over and over and over, and treatment's very expensive. Insurance companies have a hard time, paying for repeated treatments. Have you seen a model that you think is very effective? What do you think that model is? And what do you think the most effective treatment for opiate addicts is?